I didn't want kids. I didn't wanna get married. I just didn't think it was gonna be a thing. I
Because you
thought
weren't a
we would
friend
be
group.
friends. Yeah. I was gonna be, like, the
You're
girl out there getting it.
Marcel.
This clip of Ayesha Curry is going viral all over again, even though it's nearly a decade old. This one's from her appearance on The Real Talk Show, where a shirtless man walked out on stage, and Ayesha, Steph Curry's wife, jokingly started to take off her wedding ring, acting like she was ready to risk it all. That little playful moment is being seen in a whole new light today. Because for many people, it perfectly sums up what they've been noticing for years. That Ayesha Curry has been embarrassing Steph Curry publicly again and again. Her open contempt and public disrespect for her husband, one of the NBA's most respected stars, didn't just start yesterday. And now, the conversation is back in full force because she's done it again.
I think he loves you that much that he goes, this is my wife, this is my kids. And you're going on these podcasts complaining about, oh, I didn't really want to get married to him. I mean, I didn't really want to do this. I didn't really want to do that. Yeah, you did. Why did you get married to him? Then why don't you change your last name? I bet you if you divorced him, you'd keep the last name.
On a brand new podcast, Ayesha made some shocking confessions, saying she never wanted to be married to Steph in the first place. She never wanted kids. And even more surprising, she wasn't even attracted to him back then. So, how did someone who wasn't into him end up marrying one of the greatest basketball players of all time? And why does she keep humiliating him in public, even after everything he's given her? Let's break it down. On that podcast, Ayesha explained how, at first, she friend-zoned Steph Curry. She said she never imagined him accomplishing much in life. In her words, "I thought he'd just be a high school basketball coach." She never pictured herself as the wife of a future NBA legend. She even admitted she wasn't attracted to him, that she thought they'd just be friends. No spark, no connection, nothing romantic at all. And now, people online are calling this the same pattern we've seen before, the Jada Pinkett or Michelle Obama podcast overshare moment, where a wife publicly downplays or diminishes her husband under the excuse of just being honest. But here's the thing, Steph Curry has done everything right. He's kept his focus on his career, his family, and his faith. He's not involved in scandals. He's not disrespecting his wife in public. Yet somehow, Ayesha keeps finding new ways to make him look foolish. She once said she always thought she would be the famous one, the actress, the celebrity chef, the household name. But it turns out it was Steph who became the superstar. Four-time NBA champion, one of the greatest shooters in basketball history, and one of the most respected men in the league. And instead of celebrating that success, Ayesha seems to resent it. Because deep down, she thought she was supposed to be the one shining under the spotlight. But it doesn't stop there. Because this isn't just about jealousy, it's about power, attention, and control. And the next part of the story shows how Ayesha's actions may be putting everything she has at risk. Now, this is where things get even more complicated, because despite everything Ayesha's said publicly, Steph Curry still defends her every single time. He's never clapped back, never embarrassed her, never once hinted that he's unhappy. Even after the internet tore her apart, he stood by her side, defending her name. But the real question everyone's asking now is, why is he letting her make a fool out of him? Why is Steph Curry, a man worth over $240 million, a man adored by millions, allowing his wife to go on podcasts and basically say she never wanted to marry him in the first place if they're having problems? Why bring that to the internet? Why expose something so private, especially when you're still in the public eye? He's still playing at the highest level. He's still representing his team, the Golden State Warriors. But every time she opens up another podcast mic, it's his reputation that takes the hit. And it doesn't help that when Killer Mike, the rapper, called out Ayesha's behavior, Steph jumped in to defend her again. But soon after, Killer Mike apologized publicly, even though, as many pointed out, he only said what everyone was already thinking. Ayesha's behavior isn't new. She's been showing open contempt for years. She's jealous of her husband's fame, resentful of his image, and bitter that she never became the main star in her own story. But this goes even deeper, because according to many, Ayesha may be playing a long game, a dangerous one, and the motive behind it could be far more calculated than anyone thinks. Coming up next, we'll dive into why some believe Ayesha is setting herself up for the ultimate cash out, a post-retirement divorce that could make her one of the richest ex-wives in sports history. So, let's talk about the theory that's got everyone whispering online. Some people believe Ayesha Curry is playing the long game, that she's waiting for the perfect moment when Steph retires from the NBA, collects every last check, and then she walks away with half. Think about it. They've been married since 2011, 4 kids, a $240 million fortune, a dream life that most people could never imagine. But now, after all that, she's on podcasts saying she never wanted any of it. Never wanted marriage, never wanted kids, never even wanted him. So if that's true, then why stay? Why live in luxury, enjoy the fame, reap all the benefits, then turn around and humiliate the man who gave you everything? It's no secret. In divorce, especially with someone like Steph Curry, the numbers are massive. Lifetime alimony, half the fortune, endorsement shares, real estate. She'd never have to work another day in her life, and many online believe that's exactly what she's setting up. But what she doesn't realize is this: money doesn't buy peace, it doesn't buy love, and it definitely doesn't buy respect. Because even if she walks away with millions, she'll never walk away with Steph's light. The only reason Ayesha Curry even gets this level of attention is because she's Mrs. Steph Curry. Once that title is gone, so is the spotlight. She may keep the money, but the fame, the relevance, it disappears with him. And the worst part? While all of this drama unfolds online, their kids are the ones watching it all. Their friends see it, their classmates hear about it. They're growing up seeing their mom say she never wanted their dad, and that's the kind of wound money can't heal. But what if this isn't just about fame or jealousy? What if there's something darker behind all this behavior, a resentment that's been building for years? Now, we'll look deeper into Ayesha's mindset and why some believe she's not just unhappy, but spiritually at war with her own blessings. Now, here's where the story turns darker, because according to many voices online, this isn't just about jealousy or attention. They say what Ayesha Curry is showing is something deeper, something spiritual, a kind of dark energy that's been growing for years. You can see it in her interviews, the bitterness, the subtle resentment, the way she talks about Steph as if his success somehow stole hers. It's what some are calling witch energy, that jealousy of her husband's light, that urge to tear down what's been built, instead of being grateful for it. The truth is, Steph Curry has done everything right. He's loyal, humble, and family-focused. He's not out chasing scandals, he's out chasing championships. He's a father who's present, a husband who defends his wife publicly, and still somehow he ends up the one being humiliated. And that's why so many are saying Ayesha isn't battling Steph, she's battling herself. Because when you spend your life comparing your success to someone else's blessings, you end up resenting the very person who's been your biggest supporter. It's almost tragic. Because what Ayesha is doing isn't just hurting her husband's image, it's hurting her own. Every time she speaks out like this, her public value drops lower, her reputation weakens, and the same audience she's trying to impress is quietly turning against her. She was blessed with a husband who adores her, a family most people dream of, and a life filled with comfort and love. But instead of gratitude, she's looking for validation. Instead of peace, she's chasing attention. And it's only getting worse, because the more she tries to compete with Steph's light, the more her own fades away. And now, we'll uncover how this mindset, this desperate need for excitement and validation, is pushing Ayesha closer and closer to self-destruction. And why, if she's not careful, she could lose everything she once took for granted. Somewhere along the way, Ayesha stopped seeing her blessings and started seeing her life as a burden. She once said she never wanted to be married so young, never wanted kids so early, that she thought she'd be a career girl, chasing her own dreams. But life had other plans. And now, even surrounded by love, she says she feels trapped. When a woman feels unfulfilled, she doesn't always destroy the world around her. Sometimes she slowly burns it down piece by piece with her words. Every interview, every podcast appearance, every offhand remark about her husband is another spark on a house built with devotion. And that's exactly what's happening here. Ayesha isn't craving love. She's craving attention. She wants the thrill, the validation, the eyes of the world turning toward her instead of Steph. But the more she reaches for that spotlight, the colder it gets, because the public doesn't see her as a woman finding herself. They see her as a woman losing herself. The irony is painful. Steph is at the peak of his career, a living legend respected by millions. Meanwhile, the woman beside him, instead of standing proudly in his light, is fighting against it. Jealous not of another woman, but of her own husband's success. And that's the saddest part, because there's no villain here. Only pain disguised as pride. Ayesha is chasing something she can't define, a sense of identity she thinks she lost somewhere between motherhood and marriage. But what she doesn't realize is that every time she tries to prove her independence by tearing Steph down, she's proving something else entirely, how broken she's become inside. All of this could have been a love story celebrated for decades, but the moment ego enters the home, respect leaves quietly through the back door, and no amount of fame, fortune, or applause can fill that silence. With every new interview, every viral clip, Ayesha Curry's image takes another hit. What once looked like confidence now looks like contempt. What once sounded like honesty now sounds like bitterness. And the internet never forgets. The truth is, Ayesha's not being seen as misunderstood anymore. She's being seen as ungrateful. Ungrateful for her husband, her life, her family, and the blessings that millions could only dream of. Every time she downplays Steph, every time she hints she never wanted this life, she chips away at the foundation of respect she once had. And that's the real tragedy. Because Steph built that image with care. His family was his brand. His wife and kids were part of the story. A symbol of stability in a world full of chaos. Now, every time Ayesha speaks, it's like she's rewriting that story into something darker. She once represented elegance and grace. Now people call her low value, a woman obsessed with validation, a soul that's spiritually off balance. Because no matter how expensive the clothes or how perfect the Instagram posts, disrespect is never beautiful. You can't build real peace while secretly resenting the man who gave you your world. You can't claim strength while tearing down the person who held you up. That's not empowerment, that's self-destruction. And yet, she keeps doing it, over and over. Every podcast becomes another confession, every headline another wound. It's no longer about Steph defending his wife, it's about the world realizing that the person hurting him most is the one sitting next to him. Respect isn't taken, it's earned. And love can't survive in a house where pride speaks louder than gratitude. Because no matter how bright Steph's light shines, it can't illuminate someone who's already decided to stand in the shadows. What's happening between Ayesha and Steph Curry feels eerily familiar. We've seen this story before. Different names, same pattern. Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, the podcast confessions, the emotional truth-telling, the quiet humiliation of a man who stood by his wife through everything. It starts with vulnerability. A woman says she's just being honest, opening up about her struggles, her doubts, her marriage, but somewhere along the way, honesty turns into exposure. And before long, it's no longer therapy. It's entertainment. That's what's happening now. Every time Ayesha speaks, it's not bringing her closer to her husband. It's pulling her further away. What should have been private healing has become public spectacle. And when your marriage becomes content, love starts competing with views. People watched Will Smith lose himself trying to defend a woman who was tearing him down. Now, they're watching Steph Curry walk the same path, defending someone who doesn't seem to realize how much he's sacrificed for her peace. Both men loved deeply. Both stood in front of the world, trying to protect what was already falling apart behind closed doors. But the internet isn't kind. The more Steph defends her, the more people see him as blind and her as careless. And that's the cruel irony. Because no matter how much he tries to protect her image, she's the one destroying it. When you choose to love someone publicly, you're also choosing to protect them privately. And once that protection turns into exposure, it's no longer love, it's leverage. Now, the Curry family, once the picture of unity and faith, is caught in a storm of gossip, memes, and online judgment. And all of it started with words that never should have been spoken out loud. Ayesha Curry's struggle isn't just about marriage, it's about identity. Somewhere between the fame, the family, and the spotlight, she started to forget who she was and began searching for something, anything, to make her feel seen again. She's not chasing love, she's chasing attention, the kind that fades as quickly as it comes, the kind that leaves you emptier every time it ends. And that's the cruel part of fame. It feeds you applause while starving your peace. When Ayesha says she wants to feel desired by other men, it's not about lust, it's about validation. It's that quiet scream of, do I still matter? But when you're married to a man like Steph Curry, whose calm, humble energy doesn't chase chaos, that craving for chaos becomes louder. The podcasts, the clips, the oversharing, they're not random. They're symptoms of someone who feels invisible in her own story. Someone who wants to break free from the NBA wife label and prove she's more than a title. But the problem is, the more she tries to separate herself from Steph, the more the world remembers her because of him. That's why no matter how many followers she gains, no matter how polished the brand deals look, there's a shadow hanging over it all. because deep down, the audience can tell this isn't empowerment, it's exhaustion. It's a woman fighting her reflection, not realizing the battle was never with her husband, but with her own insecurity. Meanwhile, Steph stays the same. Focused, grounded, still showing up for his team, his family, his faith. He doesn't need to speak for attention. His silence is his statement. And that's what makes this story so painful. Because one person is fighting for peace, while the other keeps searching for noise. At this point, the story of Ayesha and Steph Curry feels less like gossip, and more like a warning. A reminder of what happens when love meets ego, and gratitude gives way to pride. Ayesha had everything. A husband who adored her, a family built on love, and a platform most people can only dream of. But sometimes, comfort becomes the enemy. When you have everything, you start wondering what you're missing, even if what you're missing never existed. That's the danger of modern culture. It tells people that if peace feels quiet, you must be doing something wrong. It glamorizes chaos, turns confession into content, and rewards self-destruction with clicks and applause. And in that noise, people forget how to protect the things that truly matter. Steph Curry represents discipline, humility, consistency, everything that lasts. Ayesha, in her search for something more, is chasing what fades. And the more she runs toward that false light, the dimmer her own becomes. Respect, loyalty, gratitude. These aren't just words. They're the quiet foundations that keep a family standing. And when one person keeps tearing at them, even the strongest house eventually cracks. Ayesha's story isn't over, but right now, she's walking a dangerous line between freedom and regret. Because one day, when the cameras are off and the noise finally stops, she might look around and realize that the spotlight she fought for was never brighter than the one she already had, standing beside a man who only ever wanted to see her shine. In the end, it's simple. You can chase validation or you can cherish love, but you can't hold both. And only time will tell which one Ayesha Curry chooses.